Hey everyone, Skull902 here. Over the last several years, I've been taking a look at the Ice Age franchise. The films, shorts, specials, and now this spin-off. The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. As I'm sure you can tell by my enthusiastic tone, I'm not looking forward to this one. So before we begin, a little backstory. Each Ice Age production before this was produced by 20th, later 21st Century Fox, and animated by their studio Blue Sky. In 2017, Disney announced they'd be acquiring 21st Century Fox, turning it from one of the major Hollywood studios into another label for their own productions. The deal was completed in 2019, and by that point, the Ice Age franchise was considered long dead, what with how poorly Collision Course did. In early 2021, Disney shut Blue Sky Studios down, further cementing this perception. And then, later that same year, they really took a liking to promoting Fox's library of family movies, using the Ice Age cast as the poster child of their efforts, which they were criticized a good bit for. You kill the studio that made these characters off and then parade the dead bodies of their work in the streets? Weird, but corporations be corporations, I guess. Even weirder was that this spin-off movie had been announced 4 months before Blue Sky was shut down. So how does it even exist, you might be asking? Well, my friend Disney were making it themselves, apparently without the involvement of the series' original creators. In fact, the only person returning for this one was Simon Pegg as the title character. In November 2021, the trailer was released and... oh my god, did this production look cheap. I'd call it a cash grab, but they released it on Disney Plus, so did it even really make any money? But that was just the trailer. How does the movie as a whole fare? Lord help me, but let's dive in. After being reckless and stupid little shits, Crash and Eddie get told off by Manny, Ellie, and Diego, striking out on their own and traveling to the Lost World, where they run into the super-intelligent dinosaur Orson and his band of raptors, getting saved by Buck and joining him in his quest to stop the evil genius. Along the way, they run into Buck's friend Z, the only surviving member of their old team. More on that later. The herd, meanwhile, set out to search for and rescue the Possum Brothers and take them back home. The story on paper would be alright, but becomes bad due to how it retcons Ice Age canon, which, as Rabbit pointed out, is a bit of a weird thing to say. Up to this point, everything we knew about the Lost World was that it was a place for the dinosaurs to exist and Buck was just kind of the odd one out. But apparently not, mammals have just coexisted this entire time, I guess. I did think the Dodo cameos were fun, but it doesn't add up. And his tragic backstory from the third film about being a loner, fighting Rudy and all that, meaning that Z's existence makes no sense? Nah, he apparently was a part of a team and his tragic backstory is that most of them died. How about the bridge from the overworld to the Lost World being destroyed in Dawn of the Dinosaurs? Don't worry about it. The fact that Buck stayed with the herd at the end of Collision Course? Don't worry about it. The shock and surprise of Orson being a talking dinosaur when the villains of Collision Course were exactly that? Don't worry about it. Even weirder is how they ignored the continuity but also called back to the previous movies so much. So yeah, the plot is bad, as is its humor. Not a chuckle from me, but that's because the type of jokes they were going for was that kiddie sort of stuff. Crash and Eddie's antics are filler, something for small children to laugh at and immediately forget once something else happens. The actors did fine for the most part. Simon Pegg as Buck was, as expected, the shining star among the cast, and the replacement voices were mostly fine, with Ellie and Manny's being pretty good, and Sid's being the stinker of the bunch. Justina Machado as Z was also mostly fine, but sounds so strained with the voice giving out in some line reads. I'd have gone with another take. How about that animation? It's rough, on par with or maybe even a little worse than a standard CG television series. There were some noticeable errors as well, such as Mama T-Rex's bad tooth still being in her jaw after Buck had removed it. Gotta say though, I really like the style they went with for the cave paintings. It has evolved into a far cry from how they looked in the first movie, but they're really well done here. The music was composed by Batu Center and sounded pleasant, with a couple pieces standing out among others. As an overall package though, it's bad. Not as much as Collision Course, thank God, but with all the retcons, unfunny humor, and underwhelming animation, it's just not great. Buck's surprisingly not as much a part of the movie or important to the plot as its name might suggest. They could have called it Ice Age Crash and Eddie's Big Adventure and it would have fit more. It begs the question of why they even made this film. You can just tell it's devoid of soul all around and it depresses me. Can't this franchise die in peace? Well, as it turns out, it just might have. You see, while Disney was working on this garbage, Blue Sky themselves made a series of shorts starring a character suspiciously absent from the movie. Released just a few short months after Adventures of Buck Wild and around a year after Blue Sky's shutdown, their last official production, a series called Ice Age Scrat Tales, was released on Disney+. In it, Scrat adopts a baby squirrel, named Baby Scrat, and discovers that life as a parent is just as wacky as it was beforehand. Scrat's a bit of a dick parent, and the baby has his moments as well, especially in that last one, and the wrongdoer of any given episode typically gets what they deserve by the end of it. There's also a baby Dodo, which like the Buck movie kinda flies in the face of Ice Age mythology, but I can forgive it way more since this series isn't trying to tell a serious story. It wasn't quite a gutbuster, but it was generally pretty funny, the animation was gorgeous, and it had its heartwarming moments too. It also had Scrat getting his eye pissed on, but nothing's perfect, I suppose. The music by Batu Center was well done, and the theme by John Powell is an earworm too. It's genuinely a good set of shorts, and ends on this loving message from the Blue Sky staff thanking their fans for sticking around all these years. But do you remember when I said that this was their last official production? By complete surprise, on April 13th, 2022, the same day that Scrat Tales was released, an unlisted YouTube video titled The End was posted by an account called Finale. It opens on an acorn in the middle of a snowy area as Scrat bounces his way on screen. He sniffs out the acorn and makes his way toward it, giving it a loving embrace before he prepares to bury it as he is wont to do. But he hesitates, giving the acorn a longing look as he contemplates his next move. And then, the big moment. After all the things this poor squirrel had gone through, being pulverized, flung through time, getting kidnapped, sent into space, and even dying, they finally let him eat the acorn. He finishes up, bounces off, and we're left with just a few crumbs and the top of the acorn fade to black. A truly touching send-off. As it turns out, in the last days of Blue Sky's operations, a skeleton crew put this 35-second animation together. As the description puts it, this shot is a farewell, a send-off on our own terms, giving Disney the middle finger they deserved on the way out. All things must come to an end, and in my opinion, they couldn't have done it any better than this. Speaking of endings, though, it looks like this'll be my last look at the Ice Age franchise, at least for a while. I watched the first movie for the holidays yearly, and it's been really fun to share my thoughts on the franchise with you all, with my love for the first 3 movies, especially the original, and seeing most of the other material for the very first time, even if it got rough at points. It ended on a pretty good note, though, I must say. To me, it was bookended with the same love and care as it had going in. Fitting for me personally speaking, since I became a fan 20 years ago. Considering how it started, I'm glad it turned out that way. Thanks for watching. Feel free to let me know what you thought about the video in the comments. Give it a like if you liked it, or a dislike if you didn't. If you'd like to see more, subscribe and click the bell for notifications. It's free and you can opt out anytime. Here's a playlist with similar content, and my Twitter. I have been Skull902, thank you again for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day. God damn it, will you leave my nightmares?